Members, I call the Honourable Member Carmel Sepuloni.
Mate atu he tētē kura, ara mai rā he tētē kura, ngā mihi mai oha ki ngā iwi o tēnei rohe, kāranga mai mihi mai. Ki ngā tini tōtara kua hinga atu, moi mai rā. Kia tātou e hui nei, tēnā koutou katoa. When an old front passes, a young shoot sprouts to take its place. Warm greetings to the iwi of this area, to all those great tōtara who have passed, rest. To everyone gathered here, greetings. To lau I le paia, ta whawha, o le mauta whono, ta lofa lava, ma lo le suifua. My greetings and acknowledgement to all esteemed members of this House. Greetings to you all. Tapu moe a whio, ai o tua, I hotau ha o ha honga, tapu moe a iki sea, o I whalea lea, tapu moe a iki palemia, kai uma a, ai hawaiki, minista, pea tapu, moe tō inga, o I kau whakafofonga, whalea lea, o ku mau mea, heni he aho ni, kai a tā mua, ki o whakahoko atu, ai whatongia ko eni, ku o whakakoloa aki, au he aho whakahisitolia ko eni. I o, ku o takau he lau, pea lau ku o takau. God who is in our midst, Honourable Speaker of the House, Honourable Prime Minister, Honourable Ministers, and also members of the House who are here today. It is indeed an honour for me to be here at this historical event, for today we, the Tongan people, are finally part of this New Zealand Parliament, and today everybody knows that we are now included. I've entered Parliament at a wonderful and opportune time, despite the fact that we are in opposition. With incredibly strong and supportive senior Labour Party MPs and an exciting new intake of 13 energetic, diverse and committed newcomers, I am truly privileged to be a part of this team. I feel honoured to serve the Labour Party alongside the distinguished and inspiring Right Honourable Helen Clark and the esteemed and respected Honourable Dr Michael Cullen. We are fortunate that their track record of superior leadership continues under the direction of the Honourable Phil Goff and Honourable Annie King. I have the privilege of being the first of Tongan descent, the youngest and the most recent member of the already robust Labour Party Pacific Caucus. My respects must go to our senior Pacific member and MP for Mana, Lua Manuwa Winnie Laban, to our MP for Mangere, Sua William Seo, to our Tahitian MP Charles Cheval, and to our new Indo-Fijian colleague, Rajin Prasad. I pay tribute to our former Samoan Member of Parliament and strong Pacific advocate, Vui Mark Goshi. Vui leaves a legacy of achieving results for our Pasifika communities, and I thank him for the constant words of advice and guidance. I also acknowledge my political adversary, but fellow Samoan National Party MP, Besata Sam Lotuenga. I greeted the House first in Te Reo Māori out of respect for tangata whenua. There is an inextricable link between Māori and all of our Pasifika peoples. We are linked geographically, historically, linguistically, culturally, and most importantly, through our shared whakapapa. I pay respects to ngā iwi Māori and in doing so, acknowledge our shared ancestors, for they are responsible for our existence and our collective achievements. Secondly, I spoke in Samoan, my father's first language. This is a language we were not raised to speak, my father thinking at the time that it was best for us to learn only English. Thirdly, I spoke in Tongan, my grandfather's first language. 8 out of 9 of his children were raised in Samoa and were not raised speaking Tongan. Only the one sibling who was born and raised in Tonga has retained this language. It is so very easy to see how quickly a language and the elements of identity that language carries can be lost if not nurtured. It is only appropriate that I reflect on the journey that has brought me here today. I had a quintessentially, didn't say that right, New Zealand upbringing, with my father working at the Waitara Freezing Works, my mother working at the Swan Dry factory, and later as a kiwi fruit picker and packer. My maternal grandparents were sheep farmers in Stratford. Growing up, I saw the most wonderful display of contrasting political views. Although my mother did not have strongly formed political views, her parents were resolute Tories. My father was at the other end of the political spectrum and a staunch supporter of the Labour Party. I was fascinated by their opposing political views and have vivid childhood memories of the ways in which these would be manifested. I can remember sitting down at the kitchen table with my grandparents, listening to my grandfather grumble about the Labour Party as he listened to his wireless. I recall one time interrupting his grumbling session to say, "But Grandad, the Labour Party looks after the poor people." His response to that was, "Just eat your ruddy wheat bits." On the other side was my father. His first job in New Zealand was at the railways at Stratford, and he would later work for 18 years at the Waitara Freezing Works. He came to New Zealand speaking only Samoan, but quickly picked up a very colourful version of the English language, quite commonly spoken on Freezing Works floors. It was always entertaining to watch him employ this colourful language, and his rants and raves at the mere glance of Sir Robert Muldoon or later Jim Bolger during the evening news. As a child, you knew not to move during these moments unless the command was given to turn the beep TV off. It was my own personal critique of their arguments for why they supported their respective parties and my own upbringing in Waitara that would cement for me my political allegiance. The new Member of Parliament for New Plymouth mentioned Waitara in his maiden speech, but there is a side to Waitara that didn't gain mention. Waitara is a place of historical significance to this country. As the place where the first battles of the New Zealand land wars were fought, it is a place where much blood was shed and lives were lost. It is a place where thousands of hectares of land were confiscated unlawfully. There is a wairua to Waitara that stems from its history and the battles that have been fought. There is an arohara amongst the people that continues to thrive despite the immense challenges that have been faced. During my own upbringing in Waitara, I observed and experienced some of these challenges. In this town of 6,000 people, 1,500 jobs were lost over the course of the 90s. Perhaps we should call those years the decade of no jobs and no money. My dad was a union delegate and was involved with the intense and ongoing strike action of the early 90s. The Freezing Works, which at its height had employed over 1,000 people, began to progressively make people redundant until its closure in 98. In 94, my own father was laid off for the second time. Although he could not find another job. He contemplated moving to Auckland, but found it difficult to reconcile the likely reality of a pitiful minimum wage of $7 an hour, not enough to look after a family. I look back on this time with sadness as a once thriving town went silent. Things were tough and money was tight. To this day, I take personal offence when I hear negative rhetoric proclaiming the unemployed as dole bludgers and or when it is implied that people are too lazy to get out there and find a job. This was not the case in my family, nor has it been the case for the vast majority of people that I know who have at some point in time needed to draw on WINS entitlements for support. During the 90s, I saw the political and economic climate of the time pull the rug of dignity out from under the feet of hard-working New Zealanders. There is very little that can match the degradation felt when men and women are unable to provide for their families. Unable to cope with a minuscule weekly sum that my father was allocated to look after his family, he made the decision to leave us and seek employment in Australia. Yes, he migrated to Australia in 1995, not 2005. I observed a National Party minister sarcastically reciting in the House the other day, "I remember the 90s," in a disdainful tone. Her banter signalled the National Party's tiredness of being reminded of their wrongdoings from the past. However, let me draw on a well-known whakatauki. Ti tiro ki muri kia whakatika a mua. Look to the past to proceed into the future. This may be a Māori proverb, but it is a concept that is shared by Pacific peoples. The memories of our Pacific peoples are very long indeed. We strongly believe to looking into our past to find our presence and to inform the decisions we make going into the future. With that in mind, it is of little wonder that the vast majority of Pacific peoples remain Labour voters. The dawn raids under the Muldoon government and high unemployment rates and low wages of the 90s have ensured this legacy. This is reinforced by the list of achievements for Pacific people attained under the leadership of the Labour government over the past 9 years. Isn't it ironic that I discuss the appalling employment conditions of the 90s under a national government in light of the response by the new national government to the recession that we now face? In the early stages of the 90s, the national government introduced the Employment Contracts Act, which was to impact negatively on the rights of workers. Now, in late 2008, the introduction of the 90-day bill, which also serves to negatively impact on the rights of workers, hails the beginning of another ominous National Party term. I've lived in Auckland for the past 13 years, only stepping away for a year to teach in Samoa and connect with my family. I've worked in the tertiary sector as a literacy educator, as a student mentor advisor, as an equity manager, and as a Pacific Health Research project manager. I've seen the very best and very worst of Māori and Pacifican education. There have been times when I have felt immense levels of anger due to the unnecessary failure of the education system to adequately cater to our people's needs. Conversely, I have seen some incredibly innovative teaching and learning practices and the positive impact that this has had on individuals and whole groups of people. I have had the privilege of meeting, teaching, mentoring some of the most inspiring Māori and Pacific people, both young and old. I have been inspired by their success in navigating their ways through tertiary study to achieve at the highest levels. There are always two sides to every story, and it frustrates me that when it comes to our Pasifika people, 80% of the time the focus seems to be negative. I've learned through my own experiences and the experiences of others around me that our young in particular can quickly begin to self-stigmatise when the media and society stigmatises them. When the media only portrays a picture of a ghettoised, poverty-stricken group of troublemakers, then our youth can resign themselves to the fact that this is what they are. They may even take pride in this prescribed image because it provides them with a level of attention and status which, although negative, is attention and status nonetheless. It is this perspective that only adds to the perpetuation of the problems that exist. I deplore the deficit lens being held so intently over our Pasifika communities. While there are issues that must be addressed, I strongly believe that the resolution to them can come from adopting and adapting best practice where our people have successfully overcome challenges, and there are many. I thank my parents, Whaatali'i Carmel Sepuloni and Beverly Ann Jordan, for all that they have done for their children and grandchildren. Both had very limited educations but encouraged us to work hard at school. They would wait to 6 a.m. starts and take every opportunity to work overtime so that they could also provide for my father's siblings and parents in Samoa, as well as for us, their 3 daughters. We never had much, but we always had food on the table and whatever we required for school. I am thankful for all that they have given to us and am indebted to them for their role in all that I have achieved. I will never forget my father's words growing up: go to school so you can get a good education and help our people. It is this aspiration to serve the collective that continues to drive me in all that I do. The future of New Zealand Pasifika people is promising and positive. We have experienced a 10% increase from 2000 to 2007 in the numbers of our Pasifika children enrolled in early childhood education. A 13.7% increase from 2003 to 2007 of the numbers of Pasifika students leaving school with NCEA Level 2 or higher. In 2007, there were almost 4 times as many Pasifika people aged 25 to 64 years with tertiary qualifications when compared to 96. On top of that, our unemployment rate dropped from 13.5% in 1999 to 6.5% in 2007. I acknowledge the Labour Party for their leadership role in this. These achievements need to be built on so that even more of our people can get the benefit of a good education. In recent times, Pasifika communities in New Zealand have highlighted the need to retain guardianship over our cultural and spiritual inheritance, the languages, values and beliefs that are our ancestors' legacy and our birthright. The Labour Party is notable for its support in recognising the place of Pasifika peoples in New Zealand and in honouring the ties our country has in the Pacific. I hope to support and nurture initiatives in these areas during my time in Parliament. As a member nation of the ocean continent in which we reside, New Zealand can play a crucial leadership role. Over the past week, I sat quietly at the back of the House listening to the debate about climate change, global warming, sustainability, and New Zealand's role in addressing and leading the world on this issue. These are urgent issues, and New Zealand must lead the way. Here in the Pacific, the repercussions of rising sea levels can already be seen. Take Tuvalu. Its highest elevation is only 4.6 metres above sea level, but most of Tuvalu is not more than a metre above. Even if Tuvalu is not completely flooded, it faces the escalating risk of storms and cyclones, which due to changing weather patterns are increasing in strength. Tuvaluans are contemplating the possibility of the loss of their land, culture, language and way of life. I cannot comprehend why the National Party and their partners continue to prevaricate over our national response to this international crisis. My role in this House is no different to the role I had in every other job that I've worked. It is to listen and advocate, to educate and to empower. The difference between this job and any others that I've held is that I am privileged now to be at the ultimate of decision-making tables. Whilst at this table, my commitment is to advocate for the vulnerable, promote social justice and equity, provide perspectives on issues affecting Pasifika, and highlight the great potential that exists in our communities. I do not claim to be an expert on all things Pasifika and will rely on Pacifica communities to keep me informed. Having been born and raised in New Zealand, I also want to be involved in the wider issues affecting New Zealand and look forward to being able to engage and contribute. Without wanting to close this maiden speech like an acceptance speech for a Grammy Award, I would like to make some final acknowledgements. I acknowledge my friends and my extended family for their love, faith and support. I acknowledge my mother, father and Uncle Tevita who are here today. I acknowledge the support I have received throughout my campaign from the Tongan community, particularly the Māngere Tongan Labour branch, under the leadership of Pastor Moi. I pay my respects to Anapeta Mau, Hola Tawe, Saloti Lilo, and Samisi. Thank you for your love and support. I pay my respects to the Labour Party Pacific sector, for it is through this body, under the passionate leadership of our Chair Jerome Mika, that this has all been made possible. I acknowledge my late grandparents, with the only sadness of this occasion being that they cannot be here. From Vava'u and Niua Toputapu, in Tonga, my paternal grandfather, Fatali Sepuloni. He embodied the true sense of humility, hard work, and love for God and for family. From Vailele and Samoa, my paternal grandmother, Masai Sepuloni. She passed away before I had the opportunity to meet her, but having listened to my dad talk about her all my life, I feel like I know her. My maternal grandparents, Wilfred and Peggy Jordan, despite their initial reservations of having a Pacific Islander as a son-in-law, they loved their Afakasi granddaughters as they did all of their grandchildren, and I am eternally grateful to them. My final acknowledgement is to my 10-year-old son, Bailey. Thank you for your patience and unconditional love. The campaign and this entire journey has been as hard for you as it has for me. I love you more than anything else. Malo opito, whawhitai te le lava, no reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.